Recording in progress.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Take a picture on there and show it. So, what happens to your ATP? If there is any malfunction, if there is any metabolic dysfunction happening in your body, that can lead to reduced ATP production or no ATP production at all. So I could say when there is no ATP, there is no life, isn't it? So let us start our topic. Let me first tell you the agenda. Today from 4 to 4:40, we are going to first talk about metabolism, basics of metabolism, where we are going to talk about carbohydrate metabolism, lipid metabolism, and protein metabolism. And then we are going to know during exercise which metabolic fuel is used for the exercise. And then 4:40 to 4:50, I'll give you a 5 to 10 minutes of break, and then please come back, join another link at 4:50 to 5:30, because this is the bomb session where you will be learning why we studied all of that. And if you are joining only first session and not second, and then it will be of no use, because in first session we are just learning the basics and we will apply those basics in our clinical application in diabetes, in obesity, which type of exercises you are supposed to give to your patients. Okay, our resisted exercises, endurance training, whatnot. We'll be studying about that, and then we'll have a question and answer session. So this is the first Zoom link and this is the second Zoom link. We are also going live on YouTube, and this is the link below, the Physioverse O. Now, why metabolism matters in physiotherapy? Fuel choices is equal to functional and outcome. A 45-year-old male, diabetic, at the same time he is obese, start walking 30 minutes a day. And he reports fatigue and no weight change even after working out for 2 weeks. What do you think? What fuel will their body use? You can drop the message in the chat box, whether it is carbs, it is fats, or it is protein. He is a 45-year-old male who is diabetic and obese, and he starts walking 30 minutes a day. And he reports only fatigue, but there is no change in the weight even after 2 weeks. What do you think? What fuel is he using? It is carbs, fats, or proteins. Message down, Larson. Yeah, now chat has been enabled. Now you can drop your messages. What do you think? Which fuel will his body use? A 45-year-old male who is diabetic and obese. You have to understand these two conditions, is diabetic as well as obese, because in future you will get patients who are diabetic as well as obese, or obese who's a diabetic, and he walks 30 minutes a day but reports fatigue, but there is no change in the weights even after 2 weeks. What do you think his body is using? Carbs, fats, or proteins? Carbs, okay, some say carbs, some say protein. Okay, so we'll find out. I'll answer this question at the end. So, in this first section, we'll be learning about basics of carb, fat, protein metabolism, and how the fuel is being used during exercise in diabetes. And then clinical implications for exercise prescription, case integration, and decision making. So, let us start with energy metabolism basics. So, all of you know that whatever we eat, for example, dietary carbohydrate, dietary carbohydrate, liver glycogen. This carbohydrate gets stored in liver as glycogen, and all of this enter the blood glucose. Then your glucose goes to the respective tissues, and in the tissues, the glucose undergoes either aerobic metabolism or anaerobic metabolism. The process is aerobic if the glucose metabolism requires oxygen, and it is anaerobic if there is no oxygen required. ठीक है? So you have dietary protein also, which enters amino acid cycle, and then there will be aerobic metabolism. Again, adipose tissue, triglycerides, these are fatty acids and they enter the aerobic metabolism. So let us see about carbohydrate metabolism. Carbohydrate, all of you know. See, I will first tell you a pretty good cycle, which I think you will remember for the rest of your life. Okay. So you eat rice, you eat sugar, or you eat bread, or you eat fruits. Okay. After eating that, all of this through our mouth enters our digestive system. In the mouth, we have something known as salivary amylase. Is it? बचपन से पढ़ते आ रहे हैं यार salivary amylase. ठीक है. So in mouth, these complex carbohydrates are broken down into simple carbohydrates. Is it? So we say, no, you have to chew a lot, probably 30, 35 times you have to chew such that the complex carbohydrates becomes simple carbohydrates, is it? So after this, here in the mouth, your starch becomes maltose 2. Again, this is a sugar. Now it enters your small intestine. In your small intestine, there is one enzyme, sorry, in your small intestine, there is an enzyme which is pancreatic amylase. Just like you have salivary amylase here, in small intestine you have pancreatic amylase, and this pancreatic amylase breaks down carbohydrate into glucose, fructose, and galactose, depending on what type of food you have eaten. Okay. So after this, there will be absorption because now glucose has been produced and this glucose has to be absorbed because you say, when you are working out or when you are doing any activity, you require what? You require glucose. Okay? So this absorption happens where there are these cells in your stomach, which are known as enterocytes. Okay, your intestines. These are present in your stomach intestines, which are nothing but your enterocytes. So these enterocytes will take up the glucose and it is transferred out into the blood. So the blood absorbs the glucose which has been produced in your small intestine. Okay. So this glucose with the help of GLUT4 transporters. So these are nothing but the transporters which are present here and it will capture glucose and it will throw it in the blood. Okay. So this is about the glucose. So now as this glucose is increased in the blood, glucose got increased in the blood. When glucose increase in the blood, this is sensed by the pancreatic beta cells. You have alpha cells and beta cells in pancreas, right? So alpha cells produces glucagon and beta cells will produce the insulin. And now this insulin, this pancreatic beta cells will produce the insulin. And what is the role of insulin here? So insulin is a big anna, matlab bada bhai jaisa. Okay, so this insulin is like a truck. Okay, this insulin is like a truck, and this insulin holds glucose in it. Okay, this is a truck and it has glucose on it. So insulin acts as a transporter, is it? So insulin acts as a transporter. So it takes glucose on it and it travels because insulin is present in the blood. So let us imagine this blood vessel is a road and this insulin transporter is nicely moving carrying glucose in it. So now what is the role of insulin? It goes to each cell. For example, these are the cells. Okay, these are the cells present. So this insulin travels and it reaches this cell. In this cell, it has to unload the glucose. Okay? This insulin has to unload the glucose here in this cell. So what it is supposed to do for this transportation, you require insulin. So it will nicely go, knock the door here on the cell wall and this cell will open the door for glucose and then glucose enters. The same thing happens here. Another insulin will come because for every glucose molecule, you require insulin. So the insulin comes here, knocks the door, and the glucose enters this. Again, knocks the door, glucose enters. Insulin knocks the door, it opens the doors and glucose enters the cell. In this way, there is glucose transportation. So insulin usually binds to the muscle, liver receptors, and then this insulin throws the glucose inside. Okay. Now what happens? After this, the glucose which has entered the cell, why do you require glucose? For energy, right? So I will tell about the cell, what happens inside the cell. So this cycle is okay for all of you. You have eaten rice, you have eaten sugar or bread or any food, any carbohydrate rich food, and it entered your mouth. In your mouth, you have salivary amylase, where the food is partially broken down. Some of the starch becomes maltose. And in small intestine, due to pancreatic amylase, carbohydrates are broken down into glucose, fructose, galactose, and this glucose is being absorbed into the blood with the help of enterocytes. These enterocytes are present in your stomach and intestine. These enterocytes absorb the glucose and throw it into the blood. And now, once the glucose is present, once the glucose reaches the blood, this is sensed by your pancreatic beta cell, and now there's a time for insulin to rise. That is the reason why after you eat, the insulin level increases in the blood, because now insulin, it is the work of insulin. Whatever glucose has been produced, the insulin has to throw all the glucose in the respective tissues. Okay, so this glucose is reached in a cell. Now, what happens in the cell? So, this is a cell. In the cell, you have nucleus, is it? And in the cell, you have mitochondria. So this is the nucleus and this is the mitochondria. Why are these two very important? This is the cytoplasm. Are you all following me? Is it easy or are we going a little fast? I just need your little feedback. Is it okay? Am I audible? Am I going fast? Or are you able to understand? Because I'm trying to tap the basics too. Yeah, okay. So, in the cell, there is a cytoplasm and you have mitochondria. Okay. So, from our childhood, literally, we've been studying about glycolysis, is it? So, this Mogambo, this fellow glycolysis is haunting us since our childhood, right? So, this glycolysis happens now. Okay. So this glycolysis happens after all of this flowchart we've studied. Okay. So in the cytoplasm, this glycolysis happens. If this cytoplasm got oxygen, it will undergo aerobic metabolism. And if this does not get oxygen, it will undergo anaerobic metabolism. Okay. So all of you know glucose is getting converted into pyruvic acid. That's what we've studied. And from glucose to pyruvic acid, we have only 2 ATP. So now who is this ATP? Well, I'll come back to this. Okay. From glucose to pyruvic acid, we've got only 2 ATP, and this is a part of anaerobic metabolism. Okay. And this pyruvic acid, see, if oxygen is present, it will enter Krebs cycle, oxidative phosphorylation. Matlab, what is he trying to tell you here is, in the cytoplasm, glycolysis happened, and you've got pyruvic acid here. Pyruvic acid released here, pyruvic acid, and this pyruvic acid, if it gets oxygen, it is converted into acetyl CoA. Now, acetyl CoA we've studied somewhere. Where did we study this acetyl CoA? This is the first substrate of Krebs cycle. Is it TCA cycle? TCA cycle में रहता ना वो round यहाँ पे तुम्हारा acetyl CoA, then you have all the substrate, and from here you get NADH2, FADH2 and all stuff. Is it? Yes. So this acetyl CoA from the cytoplasm enters the mitochondria. From mitochondria, in the mitochondria, your Krebs cycle operates and your Krebs cycle or TCA cycle operates and electron transport chain operates. From electron transport chain, you will get ATP. So why are we studying all of this? We are studying all of this to understand how is this energy, which is the basic unit of life. is important. So that is the reason why we are studying all of this cycle, because if there is any problem anywhere in this whole cycle, we will have to work on this, because physiotherapy is not just limited to the passive movements or active movements which we are doing, or ultrasound or IFT which we are doing. You have to target your exercises in such a way that they have to use fat, or these particular exercises will target carbohydrates. These particular exercises will target fat. I will correlate everything. Why are we studying all of this? Okay. Even I thought when I was in my bachelor's, अरे ये क्या है रे, बेकार है ये biochemistry and all. But it trust me, you know its worth in a short time. ठीक है? So all you have to know is cytoplasm में हो गया तुम्हारा glycolysis. उसके बाद तुम्हारा pyruvate, you've got the pyruvate. Pyruvate got converted into acetyl CoA when oxygen was there, and then it reached the mitochondria. In mitochondria, so mitochondria is very, 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 very important. So this mitochondria this mitochondria, it is so important because this operates only when you give oxygen. And in the people who have respiratory diseases, respiratory issues, or the patients who are on prolonged bed rest, maybe because of stroke, maybe because of traumatic brain injury, or maybe because of low back ache, they'll be bedridden, right? Because doctors suggest take bed rest strictly for 2 to 3 days. So they'll be completely on bed and they will not utilize oxygen. If there is no oxygen or reduced amount of oxygen which they are taking, the mitochondrial activity will reduce, because there is a process known as mitochondrial respiration. Mitochondrial respiration मतलब जैसा glycolysis, glucose के लिए glycolysis है, वैसा mitochondria के लिए you have mitochondrial respiration, and for that you will require oxygen. So when you're breathing, when you're taking less oxygen, your mitochondria will work less. If your mitochondria will work less, the so-called powerhouse of the cell will produce less ATP. Now, if you want to lift this hand, if you want to write, for everything you require cash. So what are the different ways of you getting money? You will get money in different ways. One is your salary. First thing is your salary. Then it is your investments. Matlab you will be investing in many stock, this thing, no? So from that also you'll get money. Okay. Or from any other side business. For example, you do TikToks and then you get many subscribers and then you get paid. So you have different sources of earning money. In the same way, ATP also gets from different sources: carbohydrate metabolism, lipid metabolism, and protein metabolism. So all of this produces ATP end of the day through mitochondria. Clear? So when these carbs, these fats, these proteins, if they are not being utilized properly, this ATP production is reduced. Okay. So this is the basic about your carbohydrate metabolism. See, in this session, I'll be more focusing on carbohydrate metabolism, because in obesity and in diabetes, your carbohydrate metabolism will be impaired. So that is the reason why we'll be focusing more on carbohydrate metabolism. So see, this is the basic picture of carb metabolism, where glycolysis, glucose converted into pyruvic acid, and you'll get only 2 ATP, and this is outside mitochondria. Outside mitochondria. Okay. And this all is happening inside a cell. This all is happening inside the cell. But this is happening in the cytoplasm. Okay. And this is the mitochondria. After this, pyruvic acid enters the Krebs cycle. And then this Krebs cycle, जो भी NADH, FADH2 was produced, all of this enters the electron transport chain, because this is the raw form of ATP. I do not want this raw form of ATP, क्योंकि कहीं भी use ही नहीं होगा. No cell will take my NADH and FADH, because this is the raw form. Hence, I want this in the form of ATP. So to convert it into ATP, I will give this NADH, FADH to electron transport chain, and this will convert this to ATP and give it me back. So for everything I do, I will require ATP. So वो बोलते ना, I don't go out, I don't step. My mom keeps telling me this. I don't step out of the house, because the moment I step out of the house, मेरे 100, 200, 500 ऐसे ही खत्म हो जाते हैं. In the same way, if you want to step out of the house, what will you require? You will require ATP. For every muscle you contract, you will require ATP. So that is the very core concept of this ATP. ठीक है? Next is lipid metabolism. All of you know, ये भी बचपन से पढ़ते हुए आ रहे हैं. This is beta oxidation. So for carbs, you have glycolysis. For fats, you have beta oxidation. This is the whole cycle. Then one thing which you have to understand is acyl CoA, acetyl CoA. ठीक है? So these are the important concepts. In carbohydrate metabolism also, you've seen acetyl-CoA. In lipid metabolism also, you are seeing acetyl-CoA. So this is, see, here you've got ATP. Here it used ATP. It released FADH. It released NADH. So all of this will again enter electron transport change to get ATP. So from here, it enters electron transport chain, and from there, you will get ATP. ठीक है? Next. Protein metabolism. We have studied carbs, we have studied lipids, and we are studying protein metabolism. We'll not go in detail about protein metabolism. You are taking protein. There will be amino acid pool because protein, when broken down, you'll see amino acids. Okay? So there will be synthesis, there will be breakdown because your body has to make body protein. Okay? And excess of amino acids will be converted into keto acids, which will again enter the glycolysis cycle where there will be gluconeogenesis and glucose. Okay? And the major byproduct of this is ammonia. The energy factory, ATP. So all the roads, carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, whatever you have studied, everything leads to ATP, right? So why are we studying this? That everything is leading to ATP. ATP is nothing but adenosine ribose plus 3-phosphate. When see, this is the main structure. There are 1, 2, 3 phosphates: alpha, beta, and gamma. So these are the bonds: alpha bond, beta bond. These are phosphates: alpha, beta, and gamma. When this gamma is broken, this last phosphate, ADP plus inorganic phosphate, will be reduced. When this last phosphate bond is broken, it will release tremendous amount of energy, which is almost around 7.3 kilocalorie per mole. So this much amount of energy is released. That is the reason why when you need to contract a muscle, ATP is utilized. For actin myosin binding, detaching, no, you require ATP. So for that, it will take almost 7.3 kilocalorie of ATP. So rapid turnover of ATPs, it is, see, this is the fantastic fact that every ATP molecule, it is recycled every 1 to 2 minutes. It is recycled continuously. इतना recycle end हो गया. ठीक है, चल अभी नेक्स्ट सेक्शन में खत्म कर देती जल्दी. ज्वाइन करो. नेक्स्ट कब बंद हो गया? हाँ यार.
Recording in progress.
नोटिस ऑन किया है ना अभी टाइम. हाँ. Guys, we are having 5 minutes here. Once we are done with this, please join the another link. हाँ. हाँ. Guys, if the link ends abruptly, please join the link. Okay? Join the same link. So, what are the major sources of ATP? Glycolysis, beta oxidation, anaerobic glycolysis, and protein metabolism. See, all the road leads to ATP is what I said, no? So here is the explanation for that. All the roads lead to ATP. You have glycogen, matlab glucose, you have lipids, you have proteins. So all of these are entering this. This is what? This is again your mitochondria. So all of these are leading to electron transport chain, which gives you again ATP. ठीक है? So that is the reason why I said all the roads lead to ATP. Why are we integrating this? Why am I calling it a metabolic mill? Because carbohydrates, fats, proteins, all of them produce acetyl-CoA. And this acetyl-CoA enters the Krebs cycle, which is nothing but your TCA cycle. Then it enters the ETC, and then you get the ATP. And now, on what basis the fuel is selected? If you are doing high intensity exercise, for example, sprinting, 100-meter run, or powerlifting, weightlifting, like that, the carbs will dominate. And if you are doing low intensity exercises, which is happening for long duration, then your fats will dominate. Why? We'll study. If there is any starvation or illness, then your proteins will contribute. The very first question I asked you, you remember? A 45-year-old male who is obese and who is diabetic, that person, even after working for 2 weeks, he feels the same amount of fatigue. Why did he feel? He used carbs, fats, or proteins. What did he use? The correct answer was carbs. He was using carbs. He was not using fats. Had it been he using fats, there would be more fat oxidation. More fat oxidation. Fat oxidation matlab fat is being utilized more. If he is utilizing fat more, because these obese and diabetic people are more prone to use carbs. मतलब तुम छोटा भी कुछ activity दो, carbs. You give high intensity activities, carbs. You give low intensity activities, carbs. Usually in stronger athletes or healthy people, when you are giving low intensity exercises, like for example aerobic walking, or walking for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, slowly your fats will be utilized. That concept is known as crossover concept, which we'll be studying now. Okay, clear? And protein will contribute only and only and only if there is starvation or illness. Okay, so carbs, fats, protein, who enters when? So it is when carbs are given when you require it faster. मतलब एकदम fast you require. For example, 100-meter sprint, powerlifting, weightlifting, because these all are fast movements. So that is the reason why carbs are required. Carbs are required here. And ATP yield, how is the ATP yield? It is moderate because one glucose molecule gives you 36 ATP, and one fat molecule will give you almost 490 ATP molecules. Okay, so tell me who is highest? Fat gives you more ATP, so instead you focus on fat. Okay. Oxygen use moderate, but fat requires too much of oxygen. That is the reason why it is low intensity, long duration you get for fat oxidation. Okay. When is it utilized? Moderate and low intensity, moderate and high intensity. Protein is slowest. It comes in the last. Protein is nicely sleeping. First carbs will go, then fat will go, and protein will not go unless and until you are starved. There is nothing else left. Then only protein will go. Otherwise, if in the intervals you are giving the carbohydrate for athletes, those who are doing sports or ortho, they might be knowing this. Though that is the reason why we keep giving carbohydrates in between to the athletes during the competition, because carbs give you fast energy. Proteins are the slowest, so let us not consider this. ATP yield is moderate in this again, and oxygen use is also moderate. They are utilized when there is prolonged starvation. Okay. Now question, guys. Meeting will end in 10 seconds. Please join the link. If someone is walking slowly for 30 minutes, which fuel predominates? Now you tell me which fuel predominates. सकेगा नहीं, लेकिन ये गया नहीं ना. हाँ. Which fuel predominates? Very good. It is fats. Fats. Guys, come on, answer. It is carbs, fats, proteins, or all of the above. It is fats. Why fats? See, first question was a 45-year-old male who was obese and diabetic. He will utilize more of carbs. And this, it was the same thing that is walking for 30 minutes. But here, this fellow, I didn't tell you whether he's obese or diabetic or what. This person is healthy. So if someone is walking slowly for 30 minutes, here the fats will come into the picture. Correct answer. Hmm. Now, let us talk a little about aerobic and anaerobic, which I've already told you. Intensity will decide which fuel you are giving. So these are the energy systems. One is anaerobic energy, another is aerobic energy system. Anaerobic matlab there is no oxygen, and aerobic matlab with oxygen. Anaerobic systems include ATP, CP. It is nothing but ATP and creatine phosphate phosphokinase system. Another is anaerobic glycolysis. Aerobic energy has glycolysis, carbohydrates, and lipolysis. So those who are interested in fat oxidation or weight reduction, guys, please focus on this lipolysis. Matlab, carbohydrates must be utilized less and fats needs to be utilized more. Okay? So you can see this. This is short duration. These work for short duration 2 to 10 seconds. Matlab, you're doing any activity for 2 to 10 seconds. Your ATP CP, matlab, this is already stored, and anaerobic glycolysis. These two will come in picture. And
Ma'am, screen proper नहीं दिख रहा.
it is okay. अभी
Yes,
ठीक है?
ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So during these two will come into picture when it is short duration, and these two will come into picture when it is long duration. And this will come into picture when you do high intensity exercise, and this will come into picture when you are doing low intensity exercise. Guys, again and again I'm telling you, if you want to focus on weight reduction or fat oxidation, you are supposed to focus on low intensity, long duration exercises. So these are the three energy systems which we've just spoke about. ATP PCR, it will occur only during first 10 seconds, and you have glycolysis, carbohydrate between 10 seconds to 2 minutes, and oxidative metabolism if the activity happens more than 2 minutes. Okay, this is how the cycle operates. See, within first 10 seconds, your ATP PC system comes into the picture. And this yellow color one, ATP stores. Matlab, already your body has some stores of ATP. So within first 2 seconds, matlab, if you're sneezing, your sneezing does not require glycolysis. Your sneezing does not require your Krebs cycle to operate, ETC cycle to give ATP. Okay, because it is fast, happens in fraction of seconds. So वो time पे who will give, on video. So who will give the energy? ATP will give the energy. And then your aerobic system. See, aerobic system is already in the picture. So it is the moment you start the exercise, from there only it is in the picture, but its role magnifies once it crosses 10 seconds. So after this 2 minutes, 1 to 2 minutes, aerobic system comes into the picture. And overall performance, the plateau is this. Matlab, initially it will be more. Matlab, this is high intensity exercises, and during low intensity exercises, aerobic system will plateau. Okay. Now question. At 80% VO2 max, which fuel is dominant? What is VO2 max? What is VO2 max? Chalo, let us hear it out. What is VO2 max? All of you know what is VO2 max? Yes or no? If no, I'll tell you what is VO2 max in a short story. You need me to explain what is VO2 max? I think I'll explain you what is VO2 max. So let us take an example of Rohan, okay, who has a nice slim body. Okay. So this fellow had a grand race. So he has to run. This fellow has to run on this. Guys, please switch off your videos, no? All of you, once check and disable your videos. Okay. Okay. So this fellow has to run this marathon. So Rohan is on the start line. As he is on the start line, as soon as he started jogging, his muscles, his leg muscles, has sent a signal to his brain, his lungs, and his heart, stating that we need more energy. Why do you need more energy? Because now he is going to run, dude. He has to run this long marathon. That is the reason why he needs more energy. So as he needs more energy, his muscles has sent a signal to the lungs and heart of this fellow and asked for more energy. So what will your heart and lungs will do? So now the lungs, your lungs will open the gates. मतलब the lungs will इतने size में थे, now it will increase in size because they are taking in more oxygen. Lungs are taking in more oxygen. So lungs are like the huge gates which are opened wider, and Rohan started breathing deeper and faster, and hence more O2 has entered his lungs. ठीक है, तो हो गया lungs का काम. Now what is the heart doing? Heart is a great pump. All of you know heart is a great pump. So this great pump, heart has also got the message too. So now heart has to pick up the pace, right? So heart has to pick up the pace. Hence, heart also starts beating faster. So lungs gave oxygenated blood to heart. Heart now pumped this oxygenated blood to whom? To the muscles. Is it understood? So it began to beat faster and stronger, pumping freshly oxygenated blood to every muscle fiber. Okay, meanwhile, these muscles receiving oxygen are from RBC because your RBC has the capacity to buy oxygen. So these oxygen couriers are also rushed through the arteries and then it reaches the muscle. So muscle uses this oxygen to produce what? Why do you require oxygen? Why does your muscle require oxygen? Your muscle requires oxygen because your muscle also has cell. This cell requires oxygen for what? For ATP production, is it? I told you the same thing, no? Cells require, because cells has mitochondria. Cells have mitochondria and cells has to produce ATP. So muscles use this oxygen to produce ATP through aerobic metabolism. Okay, so now this fellow Rohan has got enough oxygen, enough ATP, and now he runs faster. So the lungs has tried its best to breathe in more air. The heart pumped as hard as it can, and the blood, oxygenated blood, has delivered as soon as possible. So everybody has worked a lot to reach their maximum capacity. Lungs reached to its maximum, heart reached to its maximum, and the muscles also extracted the oxygen as much as they can. This is known as VO2 max. So this is a point where oxygen delivery and oxygen utilization both reached at its peak. Okay, hence oxygen consumption plateaued. This is known as VO2 max. ठीक है, at 80%, if it is 100% VO2 max, मतलब banda is taking too much of oxygen and it is completely reaching the muscle. It means he is a superhuman. Okay, but at 80% of VO2 max, which fuel is dominant? What is your answer? Which fuel is dominant? At 80% VO2 max, what do you think? Which fuel will be dominant? Need your answers, guys. What do you think? Fast, because we are running out of time and I have to run. Carbs, fats, carbs, carbs at VO2 max. Carbs, fats, protein. Protein, to, chalo, it is out of league, so that is why we are only talking about carbs and fats. Okay, I'll tell you the answer after this. First, let us talk about crossover concept. It is nothing but the tug of war between carbs तू पहले जा या fats मैं पहले जाऊं या फिर carb is pushing fat or fat is pushing carb to go first. Okay, so crossover concept is nothing but the exercise intensity at which energy shifts from fat oxidation to carbohydrate oxidation. Okay, so as you all know, in long term, as the intensity increases, as the duration increases, during low intensity exercises, you all know that fat, I am telling you that fat is being oxidized. After some time, there will be shift to carbohydrate oxidation. This shift is known as crossover concept. Okay. So untrained crossover occurs at lower intensities, and in trained crossover will be delayed. I'll just show you this graph. Here you can understand what is the crossover concept. So on this, why, you okay, why On this y-axis, you can see percentage energy from fat and carbohydrates. And here you have VO2 max. Matlab VO2 max in the sense, you're saying the more the number, the higher the intensity of workout. So here, higher intensity workout, and here it is lower intensity workout. ठीक है? So, higher intensity workout के लिए you will require carbohydrate later, है ना? And low intensity, if the exercise is going like this, low intensity without plateauing, maintaining this, it means the fat is being utilized. So here you see the blue color one, this one is carbohydrate. Okay. So initially carbohydrate is being utilized and it will peak, carbohydrate utilization will peak at the end, and fat utilization will also slowly go in this way. Matlab fat utilization later it will be slower. So this happens in untrained athletes. This is a crossover concept of untrained athletes. But if a athlete is trained, if the athlete is trained, this crossover you can see, this happens somewhere here. Okay, matlab the carbs and fats switching, whatever is there, it happens at the higher intensity. Matlab these carbs and fats are maintaining that till greater intensity. In untrained athletes, it is somewhere at 20 or 40% here. Okay, if you have a crossover concept at somewhere around 60, it means you are normal. So people like us will have this crossover at lower intensities itself. Matlab, initially your carb will be there. Slowly you have to switch to fat, and at one stage your fat will also subside. Again your carb will come into the picture. So you don't want carb to get utilized because you are under weight reduction, right? You want that fat to be utilized. So this crossover concept you have to push. You have to push because you don't want carb again to come back. You want the fat to be oxidized. That is the reason why you are pushing hard such that you can utilize this fat as long as possible. If you are achieving this crossover early in the intensity, it means you are still utilizing only carbohydrates. Okay. So this is the crossover concept. How can you increase this crossover concept with your exercises? Factors shifting the curve. Why some people switch fuels earlier? Okay, endurance training improves fat oxidation. All of you know that endurance, long duration, low intensity will improve the fat oxidation, and interval training will have a switch. Interval training matlab you do exercise and then you stop. You do exercise and then you stop. Matlab what are you doing? You are working out, you are utilizing carbohydrates, and then again you are stopping, you are giving recovery period. So those who want to do fat oxidation, please focus more on endurance training. And those who want to work on muscle, please do interval training. Okay. Now, clinical link. This is my favorite clinical link. How obesity, diabetes, and how what is the link with metabolic dysregulation? See, when metabolic mill malfunctions, why some patients fatigue faster and respond differently? Why it is? Because in diabetes, there will be impaired carb use. So let me just draw a good flow chart for you to understand what actually is happening in diabetes. Just a you, क्या stop करो क्या मैंने नहीं further. Just a second, guys. Uh, ठीक है. Hmm. Guys, short break for 2 minutes. I want you to come back and join another link which has been pasted in the chat, as well as you've received it in your email. Okay, we'll just go through how diabetes is affecting your metabolism and what exercises you are supposed to prescribe to a patient who is diabetic and obese. That will study today. Okay, chalo, see you there in the another session. See, it is pasted in your chat. Please come and join that link. I'll be back in 2 minutes. पहले बंद कर दिए, stop sharing. अच्छा अच्छा, okay 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 okay. Have you guys received in the chat? आएगा. मैले हेरे नाही राहत यहाँ. पाछा छैन. स्टॉप रेकॉर्डिंग करू.
Recording stopped.
हो. 137 registration आहे रे, 30 जण आहे. हर दिए मला बंद. मी म्यूट हरे तू मला का? कौन सा टॉपिक? मैं अभी स्टार्ट ही नहीं करी वो टॉपिक. एक तो तू स्टार्टिंग में आके क्या क्या करा, मेरा फ्लो पूरा खराब हो गया.
Recording in progress.
हाँ हाँ हाँ. Guys, ask everyone to come. We'll start in 2 minutes. शुरू of the live show, Kamal. Kamal. आएंगे 20 आएंगे. 21 आया चल. क्या बोलो? और देना भाई का रंदे जते आए बने रबो आरो. हाँ हाँ रंदे. यहाँ रास्ता में आएगा. यहाँ रास्ता में. फिर और देना मैंने. हम ला चल रहे. मेरे को नहीं दिख रहा रे वहां से. मेरे को दिख रहा भी नहीं वहां पे. कलर किधर है? कलर कहाँ आ रहा? वो दिख रहा भी नहीं मेरे को. ठीक है चल. Okay guys, let us now. Is everyone here?
Yes, ma'am.
Chalo. Now let us do the clinical correlation. I'll tell you what happens in diabetes. You will be amazed to see what actually is happening in diabetes, and with your exercises, what miracles are you going to do in diabetic population and obese population? Because we in our neurophysiotherapy, we do see patients who are hemiplegic and who are diabetic and obese at the same time, bedridden for a longer duration, and they come to us after a chronic stroke of 2 to 3 years. So obviously they'll be putting on weight. Moreover, that they also have diabetes. So how are we targeting them? Because we have to target them metabolically as well as from a neurological symptom specific point of view. Okay, so let us first unfold the concept of diabetes a little. So we'll be studying a little more about insulin. So just be with me. This is your fat cell. This is your fat cell, which is nothing but your adipocyte. Guys, don't think that why do we need to understand all these tough terminologies, the concept. If we understand the concept, that is enough. No, guys, physiotherapy is entering bioenergetics, there we are entering biochemistry. That is the reason why we are doing all of this. Okay, we are using laser in our clinics, right? High class lasers or normal whatever lasers we have, we are using lasers, right? But do we know what is that laser doing? It is again working on mitochondria. It is working on mitochondria. When the mitochondria is dysfunctioned, the laser is going and waking this mitochondria up to open and start doing its respiration such that it can produce ATP. So that is the main concept behind laser. But what we know, all we know is we do laser, the pain will be gone. We do laser, the function can be restored. That this is how we are studying. No, everything is ATP. Everything is mitochondria. Okay. So that is the reason why we are studying all these crystal clear concept right from the root. So be with me. Fat cells are nothing but your adipocytes, is it? So these fat cells will have TG. Now, what is this TG? TG is nothing but triglycerides, is it? So this triglycerides is converted into free fatty acids and glycerol in the presence of hormone sensitive lipase. So now this is the culprit. We have to hold this culprit. We have to handcuff this culprit because triglycerides, which was nicely stored in free fatty acid, if this culprit comes, it will free fatty acids and glycerol. It will convert the triglycerides into free fatty acid and glycerol. And this free fatty acid will enter acetyl, it will convert into acetyl CoA and then your Krebs cycle. Okay, my screen is visible, right? Yeah. So this acetyl CoA, it enters the Krebs cycle. So now this enters the Krebs cycle, again it enters the ETC cycle, electron transport chain. So you require free fatty acid for ATP, or was it glucose for ATP? Both. Free fatty acid and glucose, both. But there will be a twist at the end, we'll see that. Okay? So this fat cell has triglycerides, and this triglycerides is not converted into free fatty acid and glycerol because HSL. Who is HSL? HSL, hormone sensitive lipase, was the culprit who is converting this. But this HSL, okay, this fellow is HSL, and this is handcuffed by insulin. Okay? So insulin helps in glucose transportation, and insulin also helps in cuffing this HSL. Matlab it increases lipogenesis and it decreases lipolysis. Is it? Yes? Yes or no? Yes. Yes. So insulin helps in lipogenesis. Lipogenesis matlab lipid product. Matlab it is storing the lipid, and it reduces lipolysis. So you should tell, ma'am, like insulin helps in lipogenesis and it reduces lipolysis. How is it happening? It is reducing lipolysis because HSL, the main culprit, is handcuffed, and insulin is a security guard. Insulin is a security guard who is securing your fat cell, TG. So it is keeping the TG. TG is nothing but gold in the vault. So it is safe, secured by insulin. And insulin has held this HSL, hormone sensitive lipase. Because hormone sensitive lipase, if it is coming out, it will go and it will cleave triglyceride into free fatty acid and glycerol, and then nicely your free fatty acid will be flowing in the blood, and then there will be conversion of low density lipoproteins and all. Okay. So this triglycerides, what happens is in type 1 diabetes. All of you know in type 1 diabetes, it is autoimmune. Autoimmune destruction. So this is your pancreas. In your pancreas, you have beta cells. These beta cells will be destroyed in type 1. So no beta cell, no insulin. That is why they keep taking insulin injections. And in type 2, you see Type 2 again pancreas beta cells. Arey bhai, beta cell is present, but the insulin which beta cell has to produce is less, or there is deficiency. Matlab beta cell is not up to the mark for insulin to be produced. So hence there will be deficiency of insulin in type 2. Now, this happens, this whole process happens when the insulin is normal. Now, what happens to this whole process when the patient is having type 2 diabetes? So there is insulin deficiency, or even if the insulin is present, it is not much efficient to keep the handcuff tight. So hormone sensitive lipase will be just like that, it will be gone, hormone sensitive lipase. So now insulin is of no use here. So this handcuffed HSL will now go and attack this. Do you think HSL is only enough? No, not HSL. You have glucagon, you have catecholamines. These will keep shouting, HSL, go, 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 and cleave the triglycerides. So these are like alarm. So they will alarm this fellow. Array, you don't have insulin. Now you go and release this triglycerides. So this HSL will go and it will cleave triglycerides into free fatty acid plus glycerol. Okay. Now this will break into free fatty acid and glycerol. Now, this free fatty acid will nicely hop onto the albumin. Albumin is nothing but a protein which carries free fatty acids. And then this free fatty acid, this will go to liver. Free fatty acid will go to liver, and in free liver, there will be beta oxidation. Beta oxidation was a cycle in the first where we studied, no? Beta oxidation, free fatty acid, it will enter beta oxidation, and then it will produce ATP. Now, all of you should have one question. कि अरे ma'am, वैसा बोले तो having diabetes is good, no? Because without insulin, this free fatty acid is being, matlab your fat is being oxidized. All you needed at the end was free fatty acids to be utilized instead of glucose. So it is a happy ending, no? So why in the type 2 diabetes it's such troublesome? Are you guys understanding? Please say yes if you understood, because I have last 20 minutes. I want to finish it off soon. This is a very beautiful concept. You understood? In type 2 diabetes, I'm saying that there is insulin deficiency. At the same time, I'm telling that there will be more fat oxidation. All you want is more fat oxidation, because तुम्हाको जो भी fat है, that you want to metabolize. So when there is fat oxidation happening, so why are you worried about diabetes? It is okay, no? So there's a twist here. So what happens is, without insulin, your liver keeps making more glucose, because there is nobody to keep this in check. Insulin is not there, hence there is nobody to tell liver, "Arey bhai, stop it now, don't make glucose because I have already enough amount of glucose." So there's nobody to tell. Hence your blood glucose will rise. And once your blood glucose is rising, there will be hyperglycemia. Hyperglycemia, hence you are diabetic, more diabetic. Your diabetes will be worsened. Understood? So that is the reason why you do not require free fatty acid oxidation. To some extent, FFA utilization is okay. But after some time, you will not require it, because you are worsening your this. And more diabetic matlab, there will be production of more ketone bodies, which will hamper your cellular mechanisms. Okay? So this is about type 1 and type 2 diabetes. So this is about diabetes. And in obesity, what happens? You are overeating, 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 overeating. Okay. When you are overeating, the excess glucose gets converted into fats. Your excess glucose is getting converted into fats, and these excess fats will produce inflammatory mediators which are harmful, TNF alpha, and you have interleukins. All of these will go and damage your other organs. Along with that, it will produce insulin resistance. So those who are obese, congratulations, you will be soon diabetic. Okay? So these are the links. Now, I hope you understood these concepts of insulin. This is again the same. Now, how will be the exercise response and recovery in this metabolic state? So this person, he is healthy. He is very healthy person where his fats and carbs, the crossover point which we've studied, that is in check. And here, diabetic, obese, carbs dominant, and he is fatiguing soon. Okay. So what happens to exercise intensity tolerance here? What happens to intensity tolerance here? Will he be able to tolerate the intensity? Yes or no? Intensity tolerance increases. Here, the intensity tolerance, because he will not be able to take the intensity if you are increasing the intensity. For that, what we have to do, I'll tell you. Fatigue will be less in them, and here they will be fatigued more because carbohydrate, they were utilizing only carbohydrates, they were not utilizing fats. So that is the reason why fatigue will set in early in them क्योंकि जितना carbohydrate था सब use कर लिया हम, and then they want more carbohydrate for energy, and recovery in them, it will be faster, and recovery here will be slower. Crossover point will be shifted to left or right. We've studied now crossover point should be usually in the middle or more towards right side, matlab more towards higher intensity, because there fat oxidation will be more. That is why he is not obese, but he is obese because here fat oxidation is not happening, right? So here crossover point is shifted towards right side, and here the crossover point is shifted towards the left side of the graph. Hope I am clear here. Okay. Now practical physiotherapy application. In diabetes, how are you supposed to tailor your exercises? In diabetes, you are supposed to give moderate aerobic and resistance. I'll tell you why did I add resistance exercise here. And here, gradual intensity progression, low moderate intensity sessions. Why low moderate? Here, moderate aerobic resistance. But I didn't add resistance training here, right? Why? I'll tell you. Timing around insulin and meals. So between the meals also, you can ask the patient to do light aerobic exercise. Why? See, your muscle is there. Okay, your muscle, you are having blood supply to this. Okay, as soon as you eat, obviously the insulin increases. So as the insulin, who was the transporter? As the insulin increases, insulin was the transporter of glucose. Okay, if there is no demand here, if there is no demand, there will be no supply. है ना? A universal concept, no demand, no supply. मतलब diabetic people you'll see in future they are nice obese round है ना? Why? Because they are not doing anything. Sedentary lifestyle. There is no demand on the muscle. When there is no demand on the muscle, why will your blood supply glucose to you? Okay. So that is the reason why here there won't be supply. Hence glucose will be nicely wandering in the blood. So when you are giving the demand, matlab when you are giving the aerobic exercises, more aerobic exercise, more glucose will enter the aerobic cycle. Aerobic cycle में क्या हो रहा है? Aerobic cycle में glucose is entering the mitochondria. Glucose is entering the mitochondria and more efficiently energy is being produced. If it is anaerobic, only 2 ATP is produced. If it is aerobic, you're almost getting 36 ATP. मतलब more energy, more zeal to do exercises. ठीक है? So there is no demand, there is no supply. Hence, if you want to reduce this glucose, make your patient run, make your patient jog, make your patient do brisk walking. Then this glucose will be sucked in the muscle. Okay. So your goal is to increase the insulin sensitivity and to increase the fat oxidation. That is why we are going for aerobic exercise because your fat will not burn in the absence of oxygen. Your fats will require oxygen. That is the reason why we are going for aerobic exercises. Why resistance exercises? Why resistance training? Because in diabetic patients, you increase the muscle mass. When we are increasing the muscle mass, there will be when we are increasing the muscle mass, there will be more surface area. As there is more surface area, itna muscle, as it is increased, it can suck or it can pull more glucose, is it? So the insulin resistance will be decreased more. That is the reason why there will be a combination of aerobic exercises as well as resistance training in diabetes. And I have attached some articles which has proven that aerobic and resistance training exercises can give you very good results in diabetes. Actually, you can reverse diabetes. Okay. Obesity, your goal, shift crossover point to right side. That crossover you've seen, no? Right side, if it is going, matlab, you are utilizing fats for energy. See, ultimate goal is you utilize your fats for energy. Okay. And improve fat oxidation. Okay. Then see, you have to be very careful in both the conditions. Customize according to patient's tolerance. How will you customize? If I go tell do 10 minutes of walking, 10 minutes of running, would that be enough? No, you have to be very calculative. You have to calculate something known as VO2 max, which I've explained you, and you have to calculate maximum heart rate of the patient, which we'll be discussing. Okay. Now, see, this is the main agenda of my today's session. Ki if he's a diabetic person or if he's an obese person or a combination of both, how will you give exercises? If he is a diabetic person, let us go with 4 to 5 days of exercises. See, you see this 50 to 65% VO2 max, 40 to 60% VO2 max. What is this VO2 max? VO2 max, as I said, the peak amount of oxygen your heart, lungs, and your muscles are taking in, मतलब utilizing. जितना भी तुम oxygen लिए, उतना सारा का सारा 100% is being utilized or not. That is this. So you can do it by spirometer in the labs. VO2 max is done usually in the labs, or you can do this by taking heart rate maximum. By taking heart rate maximum. How will you calculate this? See, you have many formulas. Those are very complicated. So every time I have to calculate, I have to open the Google and I have to check Carolin's formula, maximum heart rate calculation. So I do it 220 minus age because approximately it comes around this. So 220 minus age, for example, you have to calculate this for 40 years old male. 40 years old male. So what will you do? 220 minus age. Age is 40. So how much did you get? 220 minus 40? 220 minus 40? 180. Guys, please be a little active. Please drop your messages in the chat box. Please be a little interactive. Everybody. Okay? Because I'm for sure that you will be learning something new today and you'll be going because I am applying all of this in my clinical practice. And if you start doing this, trust me, you can do wonders. Okay? So 220 minus 40 is 180. So 180 will be the maximum heart rate of that person. Matlab, iske beyond is unsafe. Now you are not supposed to go beyond 180. Okay. And you have some other formulas that we'll discuss in our next session because I'm running out of time. Okay, so maximum heart rate is 180. You set the heart rate 180. Matlab, when you're asking the patient to do 10 minutes of brisk walking, his heart rate should not exceed 180. Matlab, his heart can beat up maximum khatam. 180 के आगे जाना ही नहीं है. Otherwise, the patient can land up having arrhythmias or some other heart conditions. So do not touch that sensitive disc. So you've got the maximum heart rate. Now, when I say 50 to 60% of heart rate max, now you have to calculate 180 ka 50% is how much? 180 ka 65% is how much? So let us take 50 to 60. Now tell me, please calculate fast and tell me how much is 180 ka 50%? Tell me, it is straight away. The answer is straight. 180 ka 50% is 90 beats per minute. Is it? Yes. And iska 60% is 108 beats per minute. Matlab, this will be your target heart rate. 40 years old male के लिए you are keeping your heart rate zone, target heart rate zone between 90 to 108. If it is crossing 108, matlab you have increased the intensity. Intensity increased. That is the reason why heart rate increased, right? So you are keeping it in check. You are keeping it between 50 to 60% only. So that is the reason why in diabetic population, I have kept it in 50 to 65 per. Do you know how much athletes VO2 max will be? 85 to 90%. Some will go till 95%. So you imagine 80 to 90% of heart rate maximum is way more than 50 to 60%. Athletes can go till there. So every time you prescribe an exercise to any individual, let it be diabetic or let it be obese, please calculate their maximum heart rate and set their target heart rate, because maximum heart rate is the highest, last, मतलब उसके आगे जाना ही नहीं है. Target heart rate is much lower than that, where it is the safe zone, when where you're playing very safe, because you've got diabetic patient, you've got obese patient with many complications, right? Many complications there. So the time for diabetic is 30 to 45 minutes. Depending on patients, you can customize your treatment. Brisk walking, cycling, and again resistance. I told you, it will increase the muscle mass. That is the reason why we are giving this time around the meals, day by day, or after the meals after 30 minutes, because insulin increased, right? As the insulin increased, now you give your patient walking, breast walking exercises, because there is demand now. Demand भी है, insulin भी है, तो भैया अंदर लेके जाएंगे ही. Insulin will push it inside, because there is attraction from inside. The muscle is calling the glucose because the demand has increased. So there is a saying, no, जब लोहा गर्म है तभी हथौड़ा मारो. So the same thing happens here. तो जब मसल गर्म है तभी पुश करो अंदर. Okay. In obese, we are doing 5 days a week, 50 to 60% of VO2 max. Again, calculate this, 50 to 40 to 60%. See, diabetic, not necessarily obese. Even if he is obese, please keep your training intensity low. So you can start with as low as 40 to 50, and you can increase it slowly by plus 10 to 15% of VO2 max. तो तुम ये हफ्ता 50% करा रहे, okay, next week do 60%, next week go for 70%, like that you can increase. Obese, this 45 to 60 minutes. Why 45 to 60 minutes? Because we are going slow, we are going low intensity exercises. So walking, cycling, low impact cardio, gradual intensity increase. Combined 4 to 5 weeks, matlab those who are diabetic and obese, you can give combined interval and moderate aerobic. Third matlab resistance training, aerobic training. So you can give interval training, 30 to 40 minutes aerobic plus resistance. Now, I did not add resistance here. Why didn't I add resistance in what is this, obese? Because in obesity, growing muscle is not important. We are not working on growing muscles. We are working on, in obesity, we are working on fat oxidation. अगर फैट यूटिलाइज होगा तभी फैट का लेवल कम होगा बॉडी में. when once the fat level is reduced, then can you work on the resistance. पहले फैट का लेवल कम करो. So we are, our main primary goal here is to reduce the fat. Once the fat is reduced, then you go for muscle building. Okay. Then I don't say that don't do resistance training. It is absolutely wrong, absurd. No, I won't say that. First target introduction of fat, and then go for muscle strengthening later, because our goal first is fat oxidation. Because for resistance training, again, you will require carbohydrate, you will require more protein. So let us just focus on fat in obese. Okay. Hope you're understanding. So these all are the endurance training. How are we? Different modes of exercises. Endurance training, maximum. We are focusing again here on fat oxidation. Okay. Zone 2 is nothing but there are zones. I said no, VO2 max ke zones rehte. So there is zone 1 where it is 50 to 60% of heart rate max. This is utilized for warm up, cool downs, and all. Okay. Then you have zone 2 where it goes from 60 to 70% of heart rate max. And this is the main fat burning zone. Main fat burning zone. So body utilizes fat here. And zone 3 is mainly 70 to 80%. So here, aerobic capacity, it will target the aerobic capacity. And greater than 80%, your athletes will train. So if guys, if you're training an athlete, go with 80%. 85%. If you are training obese or diabetic patients, start with 50 to 60 or 40 to 60, and then you can increase it. Okay, so you have endurance training. These are the different types of exercises which come under endurance training: cycling, running, brisk walking, rowing, swimming, hiking. Okay, and then this is an article which showed that there was maximum fat oxidation in overweight middle-aged women. Here they have taken fat max heart rate. See, there is something known as respiratory exchange ratio. Respiratory exchange ratio is nothing but amount of carbon dioxide given out divided by amount of oxygen utilized. Okay? If the respiratory exchange ratio is 0.7, this is a value, it means your fat is being oxidized. मतलब fat utilize हो रहा. If the respiratory exchange ratio is 1, it means carbs is being utilized, because carbs का formula C6H12O6 glucose, right? It will require 6 oxygen and it will give 6 carbon dioxide. So glucose burning oxidation will require less amount of oxygen. So 6 by 6 will become 1. Okay. And in fact, you almost require uh, you almost require 142. You almost require 1 or 2 carbs by 145 oxygen. Hence, it will be less. Hence, this ratio will be less. Matlab, or approximately 0.7. Matlab, if the carbon dioxide release is less, if the carbon dioxide release is less, and if oxygen utilization is more, hence your fat is getting more oxidized, because fat oxidation ke liye you will require more oxygen. If you are not giving more oxygen, then it means you are not utilizing fat. इसीलिए for long bedridden patients who are coming to you, for example, stroke. If they are coming to you after a long period of time, for example, 1 year post stroke, and they've got nice belly, they are a little obese, give them incentive spirometer first. When you are giving incentive spirometer to them, they are taking in more and more and more oxygen. More oxygen, fat oxidation will be more. If they are having less oxygen, it will nicely divert all the substrate carbohydrate metabolism only. There won't be any fat metabolism. So this article has also shown that exercise training at maximum fat oxidation intensity, matlab approximately 70 to 80% of heart rate max, can reduce the weight in middle-aged women. Okay, then you have high intensity interval training. Most of you might know this, where we are targeting the intensity at 80 to 95% of heart rate max. If it is 80 to 95% of heart rate max, it will become your HIIT workout. So your exercises are running and sprinting, 30 to 60 second sprint, 1 to 3 minutes slow walk or jog. Cycling again, 1 minute high rest. मतलब there are bout of high intensity exercise. एकदम high intensity exercise करना है, then you have to reduce. Again high intensity exercises, and then you have to reduce. Rowing intervals, body weight circuits, burpees, jump squats, mountain climbers, elliptical. Okay. And then again, there is a chronic high intensity interval training and moderate intensity interval training. Both has shown effective. See, in high intensity interval training, I have taken 80 to 90% of VO2 max. Moderate intensity, you can take 60 to 70% of VO2 max or heart rate max, and then you can train. So it has shown that there is not much difference. These both are equal. So you can go for moderate intensity, you can go for high intensity interval. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Guys, if the meeting ends abruptly, I want you to join the same link, because we'll be closing in next 5 minutes. Okay. Exercise with नहीं सुना होगा? Okay. So exercise with fasting. So what is this new concept? Exercise with fasting. How are we exercising with fasting? Does this make any sense? मतलब you fast and come. मतलब it is like early morning fasting. मतलब you haven't eaten anything and you are fasting. So you'll be like, ma'am, have you gone crazy? Why are we doing exercise with fasting? See, this is very studies has also shown that exercise with fasting shows incredible results. But what you have to understand here is, you have to be very careful. No matter what you do in this exercise with fasting, you have to be very careful, because after 8 to 9 hours, after 8 to 9 hours of being empty stomach in the morning at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., you are working out. So what happens? There is no carbs. There is no proteins. Your body will completely rely on fat. So that's where I have written this. Reduce CHO is nothing but carbohydrate. Reduce carbohydrate only for session that can be performed effectively with low intensity. So you have to be very careful in diabetics or no, diabetics में so थोड़ा बहुत carbohydrate you'll have to give. In obese patients, you have to reduce the carbohydrate intake. They can take a chocolate or something like that, and low intensity exercise just for 15 to 20 minutes. Start initially with less duration without eating anything. So they are fasting. As they are fasting, they are working out. When there is nothing else to metabolize, your body will metabolize fat completely. So best practice of periodization, matlab how are you initiating is meal by meal. Matlab I would suggest you had your breakfast morning 9 o'clock. Okay, you'll have your lunch at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock before having lunch, half an hour before your lunch, do some exercises, do some workout because you will start feeling hungry at 1 o'clock or 1:30. Matlab your stomach is completely empty, no carbohydrates. Your body will completely rely on fat. Okay, or day to day. Usually these sessions are matlab one session per week. So you can go with exercise with fasting per session or one session a week. So there will be CHO is nothing but carbohydrate manipulation, not chronic restriction. Again, if you are doing chronic restriction, there will be ketone body formation, which is again harmful for diabetic patients. Okay, so there will be use train low for steady state sub thresholds. You are training low, you are keeping low intensity. It is okay. Maintain the heart rate or VO2 max at 30 or 40. I'm not expecting you to do high intensity interval exercises without eating anything. That is wrong. That is absurd. Don't do that. Okay. So your overall strategy will be train low session for metabolic adaptation. Okay. Prescription frequency, one session a week. Begin cautiously. Type 30 to 60 minutes of low moderate intensity aerobic exercise in the morning before having breakfast. और perform low glycogen session मतलब chocolate. Okay, थोड़ा बहुत chocolate खाओ and क्योंकि starting carbohydrate will come and later your fat will be oxidized. Combine periodically with normal fat training. मतलब आज एक दिन तुम without carbohydrate you have done completely fat oxidation. Next day you do matlab nicely you eat or whatever your protocol is, have a fruit or something like that, and then you start training. ठीक है. Start with short fasted session and gauge tolerance. You have to check your energy levels. You have to check the glucose for diabetics and for recovery. Highly, see, important, highlight this point, highly cautious in diabetic. Okay, so these are the क्या बोलते हैं, exercise type, what are the examples, what intensity you have to do, what is the duration, and what are the main benefits of these exercises. Again, see, exercise training and fasting, current intensities. See, high intensity training while fasting is not recommended, but there is limited evidence supports this because many people are scared of doing this in diabetic and obese patients because they are already at risk. Okay, so those who are doing theses or projects in future or PhD, you can go with such, khatron ke khiladi. Evidence-based protocols, these are the protocols which I have taken from different articles. Fatmax aerobic program, intensity, frequency, it is 3 times per week, session 60 minutes, program length, almost 12 to 16 weeks. What can you expect from this? Improved fat oxidation because ultimately you want fat oxidation, guys. Lower HbA1c because here your glucose is being utilized. Your insulin sensitivity, your insulin resistance has been reduced. Okay. Combination of HIT and resistance. HIT session 1 to 2 per week, resistance training 1 to 2 per week. Usually most of the therapists at our Physioshine do this. 4 to 6 sessions, 1 minute, 4 to 6 reps, 1 minute high intensity exercise at again 85 to 95% VO2 max. So resistance training, go with major muscle groups. So this will target both diabetic population as well as obese population. ठीक है. Moderate continuous training, the difference is here it is 65 to 70% of VO2 max, there it was 85 to 90% of VO2 max. Here also you can combine it with resistance training to preserve or increase the muscle mass. This is also useful in obese plus diabetic. So I would suggest the best exercise protocol for obese and diabetic is moderate continuous training. Functional high intensity training, it will include both aerobic and resistance circuit 3 times a week, effective over 6 weeks in increasing basal fat oxidation and Again, this is also good for obesity plus diabetes. Okay. So thank you for joining everybody. Hope I was clear. I wanted to talk a lot, but then I have cut many things because the session was going too long and too lengthy. The whole agenda behind doing this was I am dealing with neuro patients, and these neuro patients, when we are giving gait training or symptom specific exercises, we can't see much of the improvement because they are diabetic. Most of them are diabetic. As they are diabetic, this glucose should be utilized by the muscle for the exercise to be or the changes to be seen. But due to diabetes, these changes are not being seen in the patient. So that is the reason why we have to target the patient metabolically. And once I'm targeting the patient metabolically by doing high intensity exercise or moderate continuous interval exercise training, we are able to target the patient's metabolic this thing as well as symptom specific exercises. So we are combining symptom specific exercises by setting their target heart rate because it is targeting both diabetes or their obesity depending on what all protocols I have made. खत्म हो गया रे कैसा करना हाँ 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 हो गया स्टार्ट हो अब भाईजान सुनिए अब बंदे के इनर लाइन
Recording in progress.
अब भानु इनर लाइन हाँ भानु भाई अब के भानु भाई का नहीं सबकी का अब के भानु हाँ फीडबैक फीडबैक हाँ ओके So guys, hope this session was useful for you. If I had more time, I would have explained you more detailedly about every exercise which we are doing. Uh, so let us have a quick, small quiz just for 2 minutes. I'll ask you simple questions. Please drop a message in the chat box. Let us see. Uh, We had first question of 45-year-old male who is obese and diabetic both. Now you tell me he utilizes what? After all of this conversation, what did you understand? What does he utilize? Carbohydrate, fats, or proteins? Just drop a quick message in the chat. What does he utilize now? Please drop quick messages. Yes, carbohydrates, carbs, carbs, carbs. Yes, carbs, carbs. Yes, yes. Yes, it is carbs. Now you understood why he utilizes carbs. So in obese and diabetic patient, carbohydrate utilization jitna apan kam kar sakte, we have to do that because our main focus is fat oxidation. In diabetic, our main focus is utilizing that glucose for energy metabolism. Okay. So another question. Uh, okay. Another question. Uh, Two people, Sita and Geeta. Okay, Sita. Okay, Raj and Sita. They both are climbing stairs, just like how we climb and go. They are taking stairs. They have to reach seventh floor. Okay, Raj stopped at first floor, and Sita is nice running, and she has reached fifth floor. After going to fifth floor, she got fatigued, and Raj got fatigued at first floor itself. So now you tell me which metabolism was more in both of them. Matlab, which cycle was more in Sita and which cycle operated nicely in Raj? First, whether it is carbohydrate metabolism, fat metabolism, or protein metabolism, which metabolism occurred? Because Sita reached fifth floor, and Raj got exhausted and fatigued in first floor, second floor itself. So, which cycle operated more in Raj and which in Sita? Very good. Very, 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 very good. Very good. I'm so happy to see all the correct answers here. Yes. In Raj, it is carbohydrate that is getting metabolized, and in Sita, it is fat. Why? Again, crossover concept. So, Sita's crossover is still fifth floor, and matlab more towards right side. No, here Sita more towards fifth floor, and Raj's crossover is more towards left, matlab more down, because he is utilizing still more carbohydrates. Excellent. Now I understood that all of you have understood the main concept behind all of this. So from today, please change your protocols of treating patients. First, see whether the patient is metabolically correct or not. If he is metabolically correct, please go with your normal symptom specific exercises or not, then target diabetes, their hypertension, their obesity, and then you do symptom specific exercises. Okay, any questions if you want to ask me? And I would ask a question. Please tell me feedback, or please give me other topics also which you want me to discuss. I'll try to take more classes. So please, yeah. Yeah, I'll wait for 5 minutes. Please drop your questions. We'll just try to fatafat answer, and also drop which topics you want me to take. And you can drop a personal message in the chat, sharing the feedback with me. Biomechanics. Biomechanics, hypertension. What else? Yes, I am after my this clinical this thing. I am more inclined into exercise physiology. So I hope exercise physiology is interesting. It wasn't boring. Okay, so as such, I am not seeing any questions. Nice, everybody understood. So please share. I'll be sharing your feed. I'll be sharing a feedback form to your emails. Please send me your feedback. We'll see you in autism. What is this? In exercise with fasting, you said about doing exercises before lunch, and at that time, patient will starve. At that patient will not start protein metabolism rather than fat metabolism. Yes, he will start, metabolizing protein. He won't be, because see, you will have some amount of fat stored. You will have some, even if it is, क्या बोलते हैं, completely, here we are not doing complete starvation. Nobody is not that starving कि तुम 3-4 time के भूखे हो and then you are doing exercise. It is not like that. It is some 2 or 3 hours of gap where you already have some stored amount of ATP, and where you have stored fat. So it is first carbohydrate it will target, and then it will target fat. जब fat भी नहीं है to metabolize, then it will go for protein metabolization. See, you see very lean patient, kwashiorkor marasmus patients. In such patients they do not have fat also in their body to get utilized. So once if the fats are also not there to get utilized, then it will go for protein. Nice question. Autism, Muki, autism disorders. Nice. Do topic regarding NDT, neurodevelopmental. Okay, sir. Okay, for sure, sir. Share the recording. Okay. Yeah, we are live on YouTube. We'll be sharing it on YouTube. So those who haven't joined, those who want to watch it again, can kindly join the YouTube. Which exercise should prescribe for patient with diabetes underweight? Nice question. Diabetes underweight. We focused on obesity and diabetes, right? So this question is underweight diabetic. So now here you need not work on fat oxidation. you will be working completely on glucose uptake. So go for aerobic exercises and resistance training because your only aim is to push the glucose inside the muscle. So here you can go with aerobic and well, it is just that you increase the demand on the muscle. You are not going for fat oxidation. So go with resistance training, increase the muscle mass and your glucose will be uptaken by the muscle because your goal is different. In both the cases, your goal is different. Work on your goal. In diabetes, work on uptake of glucose. In the fat, work on utilization of fat. That is the reason why we were doing moderate continuous intensity, and here we are doing resistance training and aerobic training. Okay, I hope we are done with the questions. I'll be probably conducting another webinar soon, maybe in a month or so. Thank you everybody for joining. It was a very great session for me. Please share your feedback with me personally or through email. Okay, thank you all for joining. Bye. Have a very good night. Bye bye. Take care.
Re-
आएगा अम्मा कैसा था क्यों क्यों रे सब्जेक्ट बोलो रे यूट्यूब से ऑफ करे क्लास यूट्यूब से ऑफ गए ना